Hola, alumnos! Have you been wondering when you were going to learn how to conjugate ER and IR verbs? Well, today is the day. I know it might sound like a lot, learning ER and IR verbs all in one day, but you can do it. Si se puede! Before we talk about conjugating ER verbs, let's review the ER verbs that you've learned so far. They are comer, to eat, beber, to drink, comprender, to understand, correr, to run, leer, to read. Do you remember when you learned about conjugating regular AR verbs? We divided this process into 2 steps. Step 1 is to isolate the stem. This works for ER and IR verbs the same way as it did for AR verbs. That is, to isolate the stem, we drop the ER, and what's left is the stem. So the stem for beber is beb. The stem for correr is cor. Can you identify the stems for comer, comprender, y leer? Step 2 in the conjugation process is to add the new ending. For example, comer, to eat. Step 1 is to isolate the stem. Drop the ER and the stem is com. The yo ending for ER verbs is the same as the yo ending for AR verbs. So if we want to say I eat, we'll add an O to the stem. Como, I eat. Yo como un sándwich en el almuerzo. This conjugation chart should look pretty familiar by now. Here it is for ER verbs. Remember that the left column is for singular forms. Yo, tú, él, ella, y usted. And the column to the right is for plural forms. Nosotros, vosotros, ellos, y ustedes. So, for ER verbs, the yo ending is o. That's the first person singular. The tú ending is es, the second person singular. The ending for él, ella, y usted is e. That's the third person singular form. On the plural side, we have the nosotros ending, hemos, first person plural. And then we have the vosotros ending, eis, that's the second person plural. And finally, the ending for ellos, ellas, y ustedes, en. That's the third person plural. Have you noticed that these endings are just like the AR endings, except where we had A's before, we have E's now? And now, adding those endings onto the stem for beber, we get yo bebo, I drink. Tú bebes, you drink. Él bebe, he drinks. Ella bebe, she drinks. Usted bebe, you formal drink. Nosotros bebemos, we drink. Vosotros bebéis, you plural drink. En España is where we would use this form. Y ellos beben, they drink. Or ustedes beben, you all drink, you plural, in Latin America. Repeat those forms one more time after me. Bebo, bebes, bebe, bebemos, bebéis, beben. We'll come back to do a little more practice with a few ER verbs in just a couple of minutes. But first, let's take a look at the IR verbs. So far, you've only learned compartir y escribir. Here are the endings for IR verbs. The yo ending is o. Notice that the yo ending is the same for all regular verbs. For AR verbs, ER verbs, and IR verbs, the yo ending is o. The to ending is es. This is the same as ER verbs. The él, ella, y usted ending is e. Again, it's the same as ER verbs. The nosotros ending is imos. The vosotros ending is is. And the ellos and ustedes ending is en. Again, it's the same as for ER verbs. So, here's an example of an IR verb. Compartir. Step 1, isolate the stem. Do that by dropping IR and we get compart. Step 2, add the endings. Yo comparto, I share. Tú compartes, you share. Él comparte, he shares. Ella comparte, she shares. Usted comparte, you share, formal. Nosotros compartimos, we share. Vosotros compartís, you plural share. Ellos comparten, they share. Ustedes comparten, you all share. Repeat them once after me. Comparto, compartes, comparte, compartimos, compartís, comparten. And now it's your turn. Before we start this part, though, I'm going to give those of you who made it to this point in the video a little opportunity for a tiny bit of extra credit, like I did in the last video. For a little bit of extra credit, come to class next class with a sentence using an ER or IR verb that you tell me out loud. Tell me it's for extra credit. But, shh, don't tell anyone else. It's only for the people who have watched this video through here. Okay, let's give these a try. Compartir. Yo comparto las galletas. Escribir. Tú escribes cuentos. Comer. Carlos y yo comemos el desayuno a las 7. Beber. Ellos beben mucho café. Leer. Ana lee muchos libros. Comprender. Ustedes comprenden la tarea. Correr. Yo corro los domingos. And remember, jot down a sentence with a regular ER or IR verb conjugation in it. Tell it to me and let me know it's your extra credit. Hasta luego!